Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to perform a bit of an exorcism.
An exorcism. That is a dramatic start to a Monday morning.
It is, but I think it's necessary. We need to exorcise this ghost that haunts pretty much every decision we make. It's this voice in our heads, it's society's voice, really, that tells us there's a kind of civil war happening inside our brains.
Ah, I know this battlefield. A war between two distinct opposing forces.
Exactly. You're talking about the old head versus heart conflict.
Right. The rational brain on one side and the emotional brain on the other.
And we have this script just ingrained in us, from the time we're in kindergarten. To be smart, to be mature, to be effective, you have to be cool. You have to be logical.
You have to be Mr. Spock.
You have to be Mr. Spock. And emotions. Emotions are the enemy. They're the messy, irrational biological impulses that they ruin everything. We tell people, don't get emotional, as if it's an insult.
Mm-hmm. And when someone says, let's look at this logically, what they usually mean is, let's ignore how you feel about it. It's seen as the highest professional compliment to be called stoic, and it's a critique, a real one, to be called emotional. We basically view emotion as noise that disrupts the clear signal of reason.
But today, we're flipping that script entirely. We're going to dive into a book that argues that this whole war is, it's a myth.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The book is called Feeling Smart, Why Our Emotions Are More Rational Than We Think. And it's by an author named Eyal Winter. Now, here's the kicker. Winter isn't a therapist. He's not a poet. He's not some self-help guru telling you to follow your bliss.
No, and that is what makes this argument so formidable. Eyal Winter is a professor of economics. He's actually the director of the Center for the Study of Rationality at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
He's a numbers guy.
He is coming at feelings from the perspective of hard math, of game theory, and evolutionary biology.
Okay, so let's get the core thesis on the table right away. Is he just saying we should, cry at work whenever we feel like it, or that old cliche, if it feels good, do it?
Not at all. No, he's arguing something much more nuanced and, frankly, much more interesting. He's arguing that emotions are not bugs in our operating system.
They're not bugs.
They're features. High-end, sophisticated features designed by evolution to solve problems that pure logic simply cannot solve.
So, wait, you're saying we need them?
He suggests that what we call rationality, making decisions that actually get us what we want, is often impossible without emotion.
Impossible without it.
Impossible. In fact, he argues that Mr. Spock, the Star Trek character we all idolize as this pinnacle of logic, would actually be an evolutionary failure.
A failure. Poor Spock.
He'd be wiped out of the gene pool in a generation.
Okay. Before we get into the how,
Yeah.
we need to do some housekeeping on definitions. Because when Winter says rational, he doesn't mean calm, does he?
No, and this is a really crucial distinction we need to hold on to for this whole deep dive. In casual conversation, rational means unemotional or, sensible.
Right, level-headed.
But in economics and game theory, rational has a very specific, very cold definition. A rational agent is simply someone who acts in a way that maximizes their own benefit or utility.
So let me play devil's advocate here. If I'm in a store and they refuse to take my return, and I scream at the customer service rep until they give me a refund just to shut me up, was that scream rational?
Well, if your goal was to get the refund and a polite request would have failed and the scream achieved the goal, then yes.
Really?
Strictly speaking, in game theory terms, that tantrum was a rational strategy. It maximized your utility.
I feel like you just validated a lot of bad behavior for our listeners.
I might have. But Winter's point isn't about validating bad behavior. It's about understanding its function. We didn't evolve these emotions, anger, jealousy, love, shame, just to make art or feel fuzzy.
There's a purpose.
We evolved them because they helped us survive and thrive in complex social games. They are essentially shortcuts to winning.
Shortcuts to winning. I like that. So let's get into those games. Because the book relies really heavily on game theory to prove this point. And the grandfather of all game theory scenarios, the one they teach in every Econ 101 class, is the prisoner's dilemma.
It is the absolute foundation. And to understand why emotions matter, we first have to understand what happens when you remove them. We have to look at how a purely rational world just fails.
Okay, set the scene for us. I know the basics, but walk us through the mechanics as if, we're the ones in the cell.
All right. Imagine you and I are burglars. We're partners in crime. We get arrested near the scene of a burglary. Now, the police, they know we did it, but they made a mistake. They don't have the hard evidence, the DNA or the fingerprints, to convict us for the big crime, the burglary itself.
So they're stuck.
They're stuck. All they have is enough evidence to get us on some minor charge, say, possession of stolen goods or, I don't know, reckless driving.
So they need a confession to get the big conviction.
Exactly. So they separate us. They put you in interrogation room A and me in interrogation room B. We cannot talk. We can't coordinate. And they offer us both the exact same deal. This is the matrix of pain.
Lay it on me. What are my options?
Scenario 1. We both stay silent. We cooperate with each other. We keep our mouths shut.
A code of silence?
Right. The police can't stick the big charge, so they have to settle for the minor one. We both get convicted on that minor charge, maybe do 1 month in jail, and then we walk free.
1 month. That sounds like the win. I mean, that's the optimal outcome for the team, right? We
Right.
stick together, we beat the system.
Ideally, yes. But look at scenario 2. We both confess. We both rat each other out.
We both sing like canaries.
Now, the police have all the evidence they need. We both get convicted of the burglary. But because we cooperated with them, they give us a slightly reduced sentence, let's say 4 years each.
Okay, that's a massive jump. 1 month versus 4 years. So obviously the smart move is just to shut up. Why would I ever confess?
Because of scenario 3. This is the trap. Scenario 3 is, you stay silent, trusting me, but I confess.
The betrayal.
The ultimate betrayal. The one who confesses turns state's witness. They go free immediately. 0 jail time. They walk out the door right then and there.
And what about the person who stayed quiet? The loyal one.
The one who stayed silent, the sucker, they get the book thrown at them. The maximum sentence, 5 years in prison.
Oof. Okay, so I'm sitting in that cell sweating, and I'm thinking, if I keep my mouth shut, I'm either getting 1 month or I'm getting 5 years if you sell me out.
Exactly. Now let's look at this through the eyes of the rational agent. The person with no emotions, only math. You are prisoner A. You don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay, let me game this out. I have to look at the 2 possibilities. Possibility 1, you stay silent.
Okay.
If you stay silent, I have 2 choices. I can stay silent too and get 1 month, or I can confess and get 0 years. 0 is better than 1 month. So I should confess.
Correct. Now look at possibility 2. I confess.
If you confess, I again have 2 choices. If I stay silent, I get the sucker's deal, that's 5 years. If I confess too, I get the shared sentence, which is 4 years. 4 years is definitely better than 5 years, so
Yeah.
we should confess.
Precisely. This is what we call a dominant strategy. No matter what your partner does, whether they stay silent or betray you, you are always mathematically better off confessing.
That is just depressing. So the rational choice is always to betray your partner.
Always. And here's the tragedy. Since I am also a rational mathematician in the other room, I run the exact same calculation.
Actually, you confess too.
I also confess. So
Yeah.
we both confess.
Yeah.
And we both get 4 years.
And we both get 4 years. Whereas if we had just been irrational and blindly trusted each other, we would have walked away with just 1 month. Pure rationality leads us to a suboptimal outcome.
It leads us straight to prison.
That is so frustrating. It's like the logic eats itself. 2 smart people acting in their own self-interest end up completely destroying themselves.
It is the central paradox of social life. And individual rationality can so often lead to collective stupidity. But this is where Winter introduces the emotional patch to the software. Because in the real world, this doesn't always happen.
Right. In the real world, criminals do stay silent sometimes. Friends don't sell each other out. Mafia families exist based on this principle of silence. How?
Because we aren't just calculating jail time, we're calculating emotional utility. Winter suggests we have to modify the payoff matrix. We have to assign a numerical value to the feeling itself.
Wait, like literally putting a price tag on shame.
Exactly. Suppose you and I are those prisoners. But let's say I'm capable of feeling deep, excruciating shame if I betray a friend. Or maybe I'm terrified of your anger, Winter asks. How much is that shame costing me?
It's got to be worth something. I mean, living with yourself after ruining a friend's life, that's heavy.
Let's just put a number on it. Let's say the suffering of shame is equivalent to 2 years in prison. Now run the math again. If I confess and go free, I escape the jail time, so that's 0 years. But I incur the 2 years of shame penalty in my head. So my total cost is 2.
Right, 2 years of mental prison.
But if I stay silent and we both get 1 month, well, that's about 0.08 years of cost. 0.08 is much, much better than 2. Suddenly, the free option isn't free at all.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive. If the cost of shame is high enough, the dominant strategy shifts. Suddenly, silence becomes the rational choice.
So being capable of feeling bad, of feeling shame or guilt, actually saves me from prison.
Yes, the emotion solves the coordination problem. It acts as a kind of binding contract that you sign with yourself.
Yeah.
If I know you are a person who feels shame, I can trust you.
But if I know you're a sociopath,
If I know you're a sociopath who feels nothing, I must betray you before you betray me.
this totally reframes conscience. We usually think of conscience as this moral burden, right? This thing that stops us from getting ahead. Nice guys finish last and all that. But you're saying it's actually a competitive advantage.
It is. It signals to the world that you are a safe partner. And in a social species like ours, being a safe partner is how you survive. If you have no conscience, you might win the one-off interaction, but you will lose the war because no one will ever cooperate with you again.
That leads perfectly into the next layer. Because life is usually a series of interactions, not just one interrogation. We deal with the same people, our spouses, our bosses, our neighbors, over and over and over again. Winter talks about repeated games. Does the math change there?
It does, and it brings us to a darker emotion. We talked about shame, which keeps us in check. Now let's talk about anger, which keeps others in check.
The logic of the grudge. I'm interested in this because I am definitely someone who remembers a slight.
Well, you might be practicing good game theory then. Winter discusses a famous strategy in repeated games called the grim trigger.
The grim trigger. That sounds like a Clint Eastwood movie title.
It's pretty hardcore. So in a repeated game, you and I interact every day. We can choose to cooperate, be nice or defect, be mean. The grim trigger strategy is brutally simple.
What's the rule?
I will be nice to you. I will cooperate. But if you cheat me one time, just once, I will switch to defect and I will punish you forever. I will never cooperate again.
Wow. Zero tolerance, no second chances, none.
It sounds irrational, right? It sounds like someone who holds a grudge way too long. You ate my sandwich in 2014 and I haven't spoken to you since.
Right. We usually tell those people to let it go. We send them to anger management.
But mathematically, the grim trigger is incredibly effective. Think about it. If I know you are capable of holding a grudge forever, I will never, ever risk cheating you. The threat of your permanent anger forces me to be a good citizen.
So the anger acts as a commitment device.
Exactly. And this is the key point Winter makes about emotions. They have to be real to work. They have to be credible. If I just say, I'll be mad, but I'm a rational guy who will eventually get over it because it's efficient to get over it.
You'll exploit me.
Right.
You'll think, he'll cool down. He needs this deal. He won't blow it up over one little sandwich.
Precisely. Rationality is predictable. And because it's predictable, it's exploitable. But if you know I am an emotional creature, that I might get so blinded by rage that I will burn the whole house down just to spite you, you will treat me with extreme caution.
My capacity for irrational anger protects me from being exploited. That is terrifyingly logical. It's the madman theory of international relations, isn't it? I think Nixon used to do this. Don't mess with me. I might just push the button.
It is. And we see this in negotiations all the time. The person who is willing to walk away or willing to blow up the deal out of principle often gets the best terms. The rational person who is desperate to make the deal work usually gets fleeced.
So shame keeps us honest to our friends, and anger keeps our enemies honest to us.
Correct. It's a two-sided coin.
So what about love, or at least relationships? Winter applies this to the battle of the sexes.
Yes. A classic game theory scenario with a very, very outdated name. But the logic itself still holds up. It's all about coordination.
Okay, set the stage for us.
Imagine a husband and wife. It's Friday night. They want to go out. But, they have different tastes. The husband wants to go to a boxing match. The wife wants to go to the ballet.
Okay, keeping the stereotypes alive, but let's go with it.
Winter assigns utility values here. For the husband, going to the boxing match is worth $200 of happiness. Going to the ballet is only worth $100.
And for the wife, I assume it's flipped.
For the wife, it's reversed. Ballet is $200, boxing is $100.
So they both prefer their own thing, but they still get some enjoyment from the other person's activity.
Right. But here is the critical constraint. They value being together more than anything. If they end up at different places, husband at boxing, wife at ballet, they both get zero. They hate being alone.
So the worst case scenario is a miscoordination. They end up in different places.
Correct. Now imagine they're at work all day. They can't communicate, no cell phones, no email. They have to decide right now where to go, just hoping the other person goes to the same place.
This is the coordination problem. If I'm the husband, I'm thinking, well, she knows I want to go to boxing, so maybe she'll go there. But she knows I know she wants ballet, so maybe I should go there. You get stuck in an infinite loop.
Exactly. Pure rationality can't solve this. There are multiple equilibria, as they call them. You might both go to the wrong place. You might both stay home. It's a mess.
So how do emotions solve this coordination problem?
Winter uses what he calls the Tchaikovsky tactic. Imagine that morning, before they left for work, the wife was acting different. She was humming Swan Lake. She was talking about how much she just needed to see some art. She was practically pirouetting in the kitchen.
She was signaling.
Heavily.
She was signaling intense emotional investment. She was signaling, I am going to the ballet no matter what.
I see. So she's removing the doubt from the equation.
By displaying a strong emotion passion, or even just pure stubbornness, she breaks the symmetry of the problem. She forces a specific equilibrium.
How does that force it? If the husband is rational, he thinks, well, she is clearly obsessed today. She is definitely going to the ballet. If I go to boxing, I'll be alone and get 0. If I go to the ballet, I get $100, so I must go to the ballet.
So by being emotional, she wins. She gets her $200 outcome, and he's forced to take his $100 outcome.
Yes. In game theory, this is sometimes called burning your bridges. By cutting off your own ability to retreat or to change your mind, you force the opponent to yield. The person who cares more, or at least successfully signals that they care more, sets the agenda.
That is wildly relatable. I mean, we all have that friend who is just so enthusiastic about a specific restaurant or a specific movie that we just cave and go along with it because we know they won't be happy anywhere else.
And that friend is a master strategist, whether they know it or not. They are using emotion to resolve the coordination problem in their favor.
Okay, let's pivot to something that feels a bit more serious. Fairness. Because I think this is where the whole rational man model really falls apart. You mentioned the ultimatum game. This is one of the most famous experiments in economics, right?
Oh, it's the gold standard for testing our sense of fairness. And the results drove economists crazy for decades because nobody, and I mean nobody, behaved the way the math said they should.
Okay, walk us through it.
2 players. Player A is the proposer and player B is the responder. Player A is given a sum of money, let's say $100.
Free money. Nice.
But there's a catch. Player A has to offer a split of that money to player B, maybe 50-50, maybe 90-10, whatever they want.
Okay.
Player B then looks at the offer. If player B accepts it, they both get to keep the money according to the split. But, and this is the kicker, if player B rejects the offer, the money disappears. Poof, nobody gets anything.
So they both go home with 0.
Both go home with 0.
Okay, so let's play the rational robot version of this. I'm player B, the responder. You're player A, and you offer me $1 out of the $100. You keep $99.
A purely rational calculator says, if I accept, I have $1. If I reject, I have $0. 1 is greater than 0, therefore I must accept.
But in the real world,
Yeah.
if you offered me $1 and tried to keep 99, I would tell you to take a hike. I'd reject it just to watch you lose your 99 bucks. I would burn the money.
Exactly. And that is what happens in experiments all over the world. People reject low offers. Usually anything below 20 or 30% gets rejected. Why?
Anger.
Spite.
Exactly. Anger, a sense of injustice.
Yeah.
We are willing to pay a cost, in this case, lose our $1 to punish someone who is being unfair.
You would rather have nothing than let a jerk win.
Yes. And Winter points out that this emotional reaction effectively forces fair play. Because player A knows you might get angry and reject an unfair offer, player A usually offers something closer to a 50-50 or 60-40 split. The fear of your emotional reaction creates fairness in the market.
But Winter found some really interesting cultural differences here, didn't he? He compared players in Israel and China. He did. And this gets into how our environment shapes our emotions. They ran this ultimatum game in Israel and in China, but they used computer algorithms as the opponents.
Right, so sometimes you're playing against a stingy bot that only offered low amounts, and sometimes a generous bot.
What they found in the Israeli data was fascinating. When the Israeli human responders faced the stingy bots, at first they reacted like everyone else. They rejected the low offers. They got angry. That's not fair.
But then what happened?
But after playing repeated rounds and realizing the bot wasn't going to budge, I mean, it's a machine, it didn't care about their anger, the Israeli players eventually caved. They started accepting the low offers.
They became rational in the classic sense. They realized, look, this guy is a jerk, but money is money. I might as well take the $1.
They optimized. They adapted to the reality of the situation. But the Chinese data was different. In China, the players showed a much stronger, more persistent preference for equality. Even when they realized the opponent was stingy, they continued to reject unfair offers at a higher rate.
And when they were the proposers.
When they were the ones making the offers, they tended to offer equal splits more often.
So why the difference? Is it just culture in some vague sense?
Well, Winter connects it to survival strategies and history. He tells this incredible story about his father-in-law who served in the Soviet Red Army during World War II.
The Red Army. That is a brutal environment.
Unimaginably brutal.
Hmm.
High stakes, low trust, constant danger, not just from the enemy, but from your own officers. His father-in-law had a motto for survival:
What was it?
never volunteer and never refuse orders.
Never volunteer, never refuse, keep your head down, stay in the middle of the pack.
Exactly. Don't stand out by being too heroic, which is volunteering, and don't stand out by being rebellious, which is refusing. Winter argues that this kind of survival history, where sticking out means getting cut off, shapes a culture's emotional definition of fairness. In the Chinese data, he saw this middle path, avoiding the extremes of greed or total submission.
Whereas the Israeli data might reflect
Odd.
a more entrepreneurial kind of survivalism.
Perhaps a more pragmatic, resource-scarce survivalism. If the system is broken, exploit it for what you can get. Don't let pride cost you dinner. The point is, our gut feeling about what's fair isn't random. It's an adaptation to the specific social and historical environment we live in.
So we feel what we need to feel to survive our specific context.
Yes. So an American, an Israeli, and a Chinese person might all feel a different emotional reaction to the same $10 offer. And that reaction isn't just personality, it's history coded into emotion.
It's evolutionary baggage, carried culturally. Wow.
It is.
Let's move to something that might spark some arguments in the car right now. Gender. Winter tackles the stereotype that women are more emotional or, women talk more.
He goes straight for the data here. There's this popular statistic, you probably heard it, that women speak about 20,000 words a day and men speak only 7,000.
Oh, I have definitely heard that. It's the classic stand-up comedy trope. Men are the silent types, women communicate, blah, blah, blah.
It was popularized by a book called The Female Brain. But Winter points to a really rigorous study by a researcher named Matthew Mail published in the journal Science. They didn't just guess. They actually strapped digital recorders to people and counted every single word they spoke for days.
Okay, let's have the truth. Who talks more?
On average, men speak about 16,000 words per day. Women speak about 16,000 words per day.
No difference at all.
A statistically insignificant difference. In fact, the single most talkative person in the entire study, the chatty Cathy of the group, was a man. He clocked in at 47,000 words.
47,000. I feel sorry for his roommate. So the biological chatty difference is a myth.
It's a myth. But Winter does talk about a specific relationship dynamic that feels gendered, even if the word count isn't. It's the demand versus withdrawal pattern.
Oh, I know this one. This is the nagging versus stonewalling dynamic.
Right. The stereotype is the woman demands change. Why didn't you do the dishes? We need to talk about where this relationship is going, and the man withdraws.
He goes silent. No comment. I'm watching the game. And then just silence.
And we usually view this as a personality flaw, right? We say the man is emotionally unavailable or the woman is needy.
But Winter says, look at the game theory. Specifically, look at the status quo.
What do you mean by that?
Well, usually in these scenarios, one partner wants to change the status quo. That's the demander. The other partner likes things exactly how they are. That's the withdrawer. Okay, makes sense.
Now, if the withdrawer explicitly says, no, I won't do that, what happens?
It starts a fight. It's an act of rejection,
Right.
an explosion.
Right. But if they stay silent, they aren't saying no, but they aren't saying yes either. They are maintaining the status quo without incurring the cost of an explicit conflict. Winter argues that stonewalling is a rational strategy to throttle the rate of change.
It's a filibuster.
Exactly. It is a domestic filibuster. By refusing to engage, they force the other person to either drop the issue or escalate drastically. It's a way of saying, I am fine with how things are, without having to verbally defend that position.
That puts a whole new spin on marital spats. You're not being ignored. You're being outmaneuvered by a status quo preservation strategy.
You should try explaining that to your spouse tonight. Honey, I'm not ignoring you. I'm executing a rational equilibrium maintenance strategy.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that advice. I value my life too much. But it's fascinating to see how what looks like being difficult is actually being strategic.
And these strategies aren't always conscious. We just know what works.
Let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about individuals and couples. Now let's talk about crowds. We usually hear herd mentality used as an insult. Oh, don't be a sheep. But Winter argues that following the herd is actually smart.
In many cases, it is the most rational thing you can do. Let's look at what he calls the restaurant problem.
I have lived this problem so many times.
Imagine you are a tourist in a new city, it's lunchtime, you're hungry. There are two restaurants across the street from each other, Restaurant A and Restaurant B. They're both currently empty.
Okay. And I have no Yelp, no Google Maps, just my eyes.
You have a private signal. Maybe you read a guidebook 2 years ago that said Restaurant B is slightly better, but then, as you're walking up, you see two people walk into Restaurant A.
Okay. So 2 people in A, 0 in B. But my old guidebook said B.
Now a third person comes along. They also read that B is better, but they see two people in A. They think, well, maybe those two people know something I don't. Maybe the chef at B died. Maybe A is famous now. So the rational choice for them is to ignore their own information and follow the group. They go to A.
Now there are 3 people in A.
Exactly. And now the fourth person comes along. They see 3 people in A and 0 in B. The social proof is overwhelming now. They go to A. Suddenly, you have 100 people in Restaurant A, and Restaurant B is completely empty.
Even if Restaurant B was actually better.
Yes. This is called an information cascade. It's rational for the individual to assume the group has better data. It saves processing time, and it saves risk. But for the group as a whole, it can lead to a huge mistake, everyone eating at the worst restaurant.
So it's like outsourcing your decision-making to the collective brain. Which works great for lunch, maybe, but Winter applies this logic to something much, much darker. The suicide lottery.
Yeah, this part of the book is heavy. It really stops you in your tracks.
It's about the U.S. Army Air Force in World War II, right?
Yes. A mathematician named Merrill Flood was working for the Air Force, and they had this logistical nightmare. They needed to bomb a specific Japanese island, but the island was very far away.
Okay.
To carry a heavy bomb load, a load that would actually do significant damage, the planes would burn too much fuel. They physically wouldn't have enough gas to get back to base.
So it's a one-way trip.
Sure.
A suicide mission.
Unless they change the parameters. So Flood analyzed 2 options. Option A, send many planes with light bomb loads. If the loads are light, they can get there and back.
Okay, that sounds better. Everyone comes home.
Not exactly. Sending many planes with light loads meant many sorties. It meant flying the mission 10 times instead of once. It meant facing anti-aircraft fire over and over and over again. The probability of getting shot down on any one mission was medium, but it was cumulative. Flood calculated that if they did this, a huge number of pilots would die over the course of the campaign.
So playing it safe actually results in mass casualties just due to repeated exposure. What was option B?
Option B was the optimal solution mathematically. You take only 25% of the pilots, you load their planes to the absolute maximum, they do the job in one massive sweep. But those planes are too heavy to return.
So 25% of the men die for sure, guaranteed death, and the other 75% stay home and are perfectly safe.
Flood calculated that option B, sacrificing 25% to save 75%, resulted in fewer total deaths than sending everyone into medium danger over and over again. It was the rational choice for the group's survival.
That is just chilling. It's pure utilitarian calculus. It reminds me of the trolley problem. But how do you sell that? Hey guys, good news. Only a quarter of you have to die.
Exactly. A group of purely rational, selfish individuals would never agree to that. If you told me there's a 100% chance you die, I would desert. I would quit. My rational self-interest says run.
So the math works for the group, but it fails for the individual.
Unless you introduce emotion. How do you get men to agree to a system where they might draw the short straw and die? You need intense feelings of solidarity, of duty, of patriotism, that band of brothers mentality.
You need them to love the group more than they love themselves.
Yes. Winter argues that in extreme situations, emotions like self-sacrifice are actually survival mechanisms for the species. The irrational willingness to die for your friends is the only thing that allows the rational group strategy, the lottery, to work.
That is a heavy insight. The emotion isn't just a feeling, it's the fuel for the collective survival strategy. It makes the cold math of war possible.
It makes you realize that heroism is, in a way, a mathematical necessity for a tribe to survive. Without the capacity for irrational self-sacrifice, the whole group would perish in option A.
Let's lighten the mood a little bit, but only slightly, and talk about the workplace. Incentives.
The bread and butter of economics.
We all think if you want someone to work harder, you pay them more. That's the rule. Capitalism 101.
It's the standard economic model. Incentives drive behavior. But Winter introduces something he calls the incentive reversal. He explains it with a model of a software company. You have Mr. Developer and Mr. Marketer.
Okay, two partners in a project.
The project only succeeds if both work hard. It's a joint effort. Mr. Developer builds the product first, then Mr. Marketer sells it second.
Simple enough.
Now imagine the owner offers a massive, huge bonus to both of them if the product succeeds. We think that motivates them, right?
Sure. Big money equals big effort. I'd work harder for $1 million than for 10 bucks.
But Winter's research shows that sometimes huge monetary incentives actually reduce motivation.
That makes no sense. Why would offering me more money make me work less hard?
It's all about signaling and trust. If I'm Mr. Marketer and I see this massive bonus on the table, I might start thinking about Mr. Developer. I might think, wow, the only reason he would work hard is for this cash. He doesn't actually care about the product quality. He's just chasing the buck.
Okay, I'm following.
And if he's just chasing the buck, I'd think he probably cut corners. He probably built a buggy piece of junk just to cross the finish line and get paid.
Ah, so the high bonus makes me suspicious of his quality. It signals desperation or greed, not passion.
Exactly. And if I suspect the product is bad, why should I bust my hump trying to market it? I'm not going to ruin my reputation trying to sell a lemon. So I back off. I don't work as hard.
So the big money introduces skepticism and breaks the trust.
Whereas if the incentives are smaller or based on internal motivation like pride or team spirit, I assume you're working hard because you care. And because I trust you care, I work hard too. That is the incentive reversal.
Yeah.
Sometimes paying people too much signals that the job itself is miserable or that your partners are untrustworthy.
It creates a transactional mindset instead of a cooperative one. And in teamwork, cooperation often beats transaction.
It explains why so many startups with low pay but a high mission often outwork giant corporations that have huge bonuses.
Precisely. They are running on the fuel of belief, which can be a more efficient coordinator than cash.
We have time for one more major concept before we wrap up. The winner's curse. This is for anyone who has ever been on eBay or at a charity auction.
Oh, this is a very real phenomenon. The winner's curse states that in any auction with many bidders, the winner is almost always the person who has most overestimated the value of the item.
Right. Like if there's a jar of coins that's really worth $10, and we all guess, the person who guesses $8 loses. The person who guesses $12 wins the jar, but loses $2 in the process.
Exactly. Winning is losing. Winter tells a story about the Israeli National Gas Storage Company auction. Massive stakes.
How much are we talking?
The winning bid was $220 million.
Which sounds like a lot.
It was nearly double the most optimistic estimate of what the company was actually worth. It was a classic case of auction fever. You know, the adrenaline, the competition, the desire to beat the other guys. It drives the price up way beyond rationality.
So how do we fix this? Winter actually consulted on this kind of thing, right?
He did. He advised a client in a similar situation. He told the CEO, you need to separate your rational self from your future emotional self.
How? Do you meditate? Hypnosis?
No, you use a physical constraint, a very clever one. He said, step 1, go into a quiet room, far away from the auction floor. Look at the spreadsheets. Calculate the absolute maximum the item is worth to you. Write that number on a piece of paper.
Okay, that's the cold, hard logic part.
Step 2, put that paper in an envelope, seal it. Give it to a trusted friend, a senior banker who will be at the auction with you.
The designated driver for your wallet.
Step 3, give that banker strict instructions. Do not let me bid 1 penny over the amount in this envelope. No matter how much I scream, no matter how much I beg, no matter if I threaten to fire you, do not open this envelope until the auction is over.
This is Odysseus tying himself to the mast so he doesn't hear the siren song.
It is self-commitment. You acknowledge that your future self will get emotional and stupid. So your present rational self builds a cage to contain that future stupidity.
Which again proves the point. You aren't suppressing the emotion, you're managing it strategically. You are accounting for it in your game plan.
Precisely. You are being smart about your feelings.
Okay, let's wrap this all up with the epilogue, the Spock fallacy. We talked about Spock at the very beginning, but Winter has a final argument for why Spock would actually be paralyzed in the real world.
It's a philosophical point, but it's a really powerful one. Imagine you're deciding between 2 jobs. Job A pays more but has a long, miserable commute. Job B pays less but is cooler work, something you're passionate about.
A classic dilemma.
A purely rational machine, a Spock can list the attributes. Job A, $100,000 salary. Job A, $80,000 salary. Job A, 60-minute commute. Job B, 15-minute commute.
Okay, I have the data. run the algorithm, tell me what to do.
But here's the problem. Reason cannot assign value. Reason can tell you the probability of getting promoted, it can tell you your gas mileage, but it cannot tell you how much you care about the commute versus the money.
Right. Is 45 minutes of driving worth $20,000?
Logic has no answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
There is no mathematical constant for the annoyance of traffic. Only emotion has the answer. Only your gut can tell you how much you hate traffic, or how much you love prestige, or how much you value job satisfaction.
So without emotion.
Without emotion to weight the variables, the decision matrix is unsolvable. You would just stare at the list forever. Spock wouldn't be logical, he would be catatonic, he wouldn't be able to pick a breakfast cereal, let alone a career.
So we aren't rational beings and emotional beings fighting a war inside our heads. We are one integrated system. The emotion provides the values, and the reason provides the strategy to get them.
That's a perfect summary. You can't have one without the other. Emotion is the compass, reason is the map.
This has been such a cool deep dive. It really makes me rethink every single time I've gotten angry or followed the crowd or felt jealous.
It should. The next time you feel that surge of irrational feeling, don't just push it down. Ask yourself, what game am I playing right now, and how is this feeling trying to help me win it?
I love that. And I want to leave our listeners with a final provocative thought to chew on this week. We talk a lot about AI and robots. If emotions are actually sophisticated tools for survival and social coordination, can we ever build a truly smart AI if we don't give it the capacity to get angry, to feel shame, or to fall in love?
If an AI can't make a commitment because it can't get irrationally angry, maybe it can never be a true partner or a true threat.
Something to think about. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.